Welcome back. You're listening to the discussion, How the House is Modernizing its Human Capital Programs, sponsored by Cornerstone On Demand on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guests today are John Salamone, the Chief Human Resources Officer at the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer for the House of Representatives, and Richard Capetto, the Chief Customer Officer, also in the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer in the U.S. House of Representatives. John, we heard a lot from Rich a little bit about how his organization stood up, how he is really taking into account what the customers are telling them, the feedback you mentioned, the feedback that you get across all the administrative services, finance, HR, IT, procurement. Let's walk into what we're really here to talk about, which is how you guys really are taking some of that feedback and looking at all the systems and capabilities and tools that are out there and really trying to modernize the human capital roadmap, human capital strategy approach. Let's discuss that new document, if you will.
Sure, absolutely, Jason. And, I think one of the big things that we've been doing over the last 3 years, as I said earlier, is modernizing internal CAO HR practices. And, through those efforts, we've brought new technology, we've brought new business practices. We're using data to drive decisions and figure out, if we're bringing the right talent in, how can we enhance our outreach, how can we enhance our recruitment strategies, and how can we just make sure that we are bringing in the talent that can help us ensure that members are able to perform their constitutional duties. And, through those efforts, we have laid a good groundwork for expanding services to member offices. And earlier this year, in March, the Modernization Committee and the House of Representatives adopted a resolution, House Resolution 756, entitled Moving Our Democracy and Congressional Operations Toward Modernization. And, the first title of the resolution asked the Chief Administrative Officer to establish and operate a central HR program for members, committees, and leadership staff. So over the course of the last couple of months, we've been putting together an action plan. And I was really happy to see that the Modernization Committee made this section 1 of the resolution because if you hearken back to the days of the Bush administration with the human capital, the Bush administration's management plan, I was happy to see Title I of the modernization resolution focus on human resources, central human resources program. I mean, candidly, without the right people in the right place at the right time, you're not going to be able to perform your duties, whether you're working in the chief administrative officer or whether you're working in a member office. And you've got to make sure that you have the right talent to support the mission. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to stand up the central HR program. I mean, candidly, we have a lot of work to do. And I think we have a big mission. I think Rich, through his efforts to stand up a brand new business unit for the CAO that provides direct services to member offices, provides us with a really good roadmap and something to replicate to make sure that we're successful. But certainly really excited about the opportunity. There are 6 requirements that the Modernization Committee asked us to work on, and I can get into some greater detail on that as we get into the nature of the conversation. But I think just overall, the foundation that we've been able to provide by providing and enhancing internal CAO services is really going to help us as we expand and look at growing our program, an HR program for 700 people to potentially 10,000 CAO staff or house staffers, I should say. So really an exciting opportunity. Happy to have that chance and looking forward to it.
Let me bring us back for a second before we look at the Modernization Committee. You mentioned you brought in new technology, new business practices, using data to drive decisions. Walk me through a little bit of what you did and how it's different from what it was. And maybe, we can start, you want to start with business practices, you want to start with technology, you choose.
Yeah, so I think good, Jason, appreciate that. When I came in, I've been in the job for 4.5 years. And when I came here, realized that we had very outdated practices we did not have any technologies to manage our hiring process. Everything was very manual. Resumes would come in and they would get sorted and put into a file and someone's share drive, and we would be managing the application process that way. And so the very first thing I did, I asked my team, can we count how many resumes come into the organization when we post jobs? And in the first year that I was here, we posted about 100 jobs and got about 10,000 resumes. So we're getting on average well over 100 resumes per job posting, right? And that's a lot for an organization to manage, and it's a lot for an organization to manage effectively. So we started to build the business case using, manual data that we had to count to lay the groundwork for bringing in a new applicant tracking system to manage how we are bringing talent into the organization, how we're partnering with hiring managers to make the process more efficient and more effective. And over the last year, we've had this technology deployed. I think it perfectly positions us to find ways to expand that for member offices if they so choose to want to use that service. And I think it's one of those things, if you're thinking about shared services, don't necessarily think it's going to be something that we would mandate, but it would be a service that we could certainly provide to the members if they wanted it. And certainly we're looking at that as a real opportunity to leverage that technology that we put into place for a very manual system that was broken when I got there, and that we have greatly enhanced over the last really 2 years, going through the acquisition cycle, going through the testing cycle, going through the design cycle, and now the deployment cycle. And we've got really good data. I mean, just last week I was sitting down with my team and I was, how long is it taking us to hire people? Hire staff, and they can pull that data. Where are we getting our applicants from? Are they coming in from USA Jobs? Are they coming in from Indeed? Where are the other job sources that we're getting? Are they coming in from diverse, job posting boards where we're posting our jobs? So it's really helpful for us to have real data in real time and hard evidence to help us make additional enhancements and then bring those to market, so to speak, when we launch the HR Hub.
Yeah, hi, Jason. This is Rich Capetto. If I could jump in here, just like it's a perfect opportunity because this was something that we partnered with John on in our IT department to bring a solution to the CAO, and we're realizing the same benefits now after implementing the technology for the last 2 years. Our challenge was for providing professional development and training to member offices, members and their staff. We were tasked with standing up on a professional development organization. We've branded it as the Congressional Staff Academy to provide tailored education to help members and their staff that do their constitutional work. Like John said, when we started this a few years ago, we had some old custom on-premise technology that was very limited in its use. The data wasn't reliable. The people that were in the system, lots of duplicates and outdated accounts because it wasn't tied to our Active Directory system. And we were playing a lot of guessing games. What training should we be putting on the schedule? When should it be scheduled? And as we talked through the need and the business case, John approached us. It was something that we could partner on, and our chief technology officer also helped us to identify solutions. And now we've got a fully automated system where we can pull a lot of that data based on what courses people want to take, when's the time that's most convenient for them to take it. We have zero sign-on experience, so you're not having to remember multiple username and passwords. And one of the biggest customer pain points that helped open up this project we've been able to solve, which is that chiefs of staff or members were coming to me and explaining that they were spending hours tracking their staff's required training. So on the Hill, we've got to take ethics training, cybersecurity, workplace rights and responsibilities. And each of those were run out of different systems, different registration systems, where you were issued a paper certificate. And so for managers to track if their office was compliant, they were literally printing certificates and keeping them in manila folders to have to track all of their staff and if they were compliant. So it was a huge pain point, a waste of valuable time for a chief of staff. And now we're able to eliminate that for them. So they can easily see which of their staff are registered, and they can assign training to their staff, and then track the compliance. So we're really proud that we were able to offer that capability to the members and their staff that really eliminates a major pain point for them.
Jason, this is John. I want to jump in and really highlight one key piece that Rich said when he first started, and just underscore it for your listeners. This was a true partnership. And I think if anybody is going through and making decisions about acquisition of any IT systems, do not do it in a vacuum. You know, Rich and I knew what our requirements were. We took a lot of time to write the requirements, and we engaged our acquisition team. We engaged our IT team. We engaged our finance team. We had several briefings and demos from companies to help us not only define the requirements, but refine the requirements. And it really made a huge difference. And I was, candidly, you get nervous about deploying new technologies, right? There's a lot of unknowns, and, there's like zero opportunity. You don't want to fail, basically. And I think the time that we took on the front end to make sure that the requirements were right, to make sure that we understood what the capabilities are and were of the companies that we were looking at, and to make sure that we engaged the partners at the right level, the decision makers, it was really easy with all of that. Had we not engaged everybody, and had we not had the conversations and the decisions, I think we would have failed. I mean, I think we are thriving because of it. And I think there are opportunities for us to continue to expand and grow and add value because of it as well.
It's interesting you bring up the idea of the customer, and you talked about the IT, the finance team, the acquisition team, which is important. Then you said briefings and demos from customers. Where did the actual, from companies, briefings and demos from companies, where did the customer fit in? Did you bring in chiefs of staff? Did you talk to them about, hey, this is what this will do, this is where the change is, or where's your big pain point? Maybe that's a Rich question.
Yeah, we take that customer feedback as they're the major stakeholder in what we're trying to do. So we took their feedback from customer advocates, like I said, from surveys. We would create personas and run through a customer journey of what it does, what would a customer do now, and where do we want, what does an ideal customer journey look like in a future state. We had conversations with chiefs of staff to understand the pain point. And then as we implemented it, we continued doing that. So one of the things that we didn't just implement the technology and everything was perfect on day one. We've been really grinding and making continuous improvement over the course of the last year to refine. So we launched this new platform, and then we got feedback from people. It's confusing to get to this report, or this page isn't intuitive. And so we've been refining that with customer feedback as well, and it's made strides even from when we launched it. And I would say, we were doing such a big upgrade for the first implementation. We were coming from something that was really unusable, and couldn't meet the new requirements of what we were being asked to do to just get something in place. And then we've been able to improve that and make it a really useful system. One of the big things that occurred while we were planning this project was that the House introduced a new requirement for workplace rights training at the end of 2017, that all 10,000 plus members and staff had to take at least an hour long in-person workplace rights training. And when that passed the House, we realized before, but it was even more urgent now that the system we had couldn't support that level of effort. And so we kind of made do with the first year, did the best we can, did some workarounds and used some alternative processes to get that working, to train 16,000 people in year one. And then we've been able to benefit from the new technology since then. And it's made our lives easier in terms of being able to administer a program like that. But most importantly, it's made the customer life easier. They can now, they know what their training requirements are. They can easily find it, sign up, attend, and then verify that they've attended with certificates. So that program has really benefited from the new technology, and we can do bigger things like that now.
Jason, this is John, because I want to jump in again. This is, I do want to highlight again, Rich had the mandate for the in-person training. And we're not just talking in-person in DC, we're talking in-person around the country at, district offices far and wide. So figuring out ways to leverage that technology and bring training out to district offices or regional, like a regional based approach that they took, was really, we couldn't have done it without the technology. And I think in my estimation, it's one of the hardest things I've had to see someone do in my career, watching Rich have this mandate, stand up a training program for the House community and deploy it in about 4 or 5 months' time. And be able to track who was taking the training and making sure that they were meeting the mandate that the House passed. Very challenging. We would not have been able to do it without the new technology, and it's commendable what he's been able to do since that time.
Sounds like a great program. We're going to talk more about it after the break. You're listening to the discussion, How the House is Modernizing its Human Capital Programs, sponsored by Cornerstone on Federal News Network.